Yes, you have permission to record, although I am already recording this Kamikani. Let's see. How do I...
Are you going to send the recording after you're done with this, Cody?
Yeah, as I've been doing with every other thing.
Okay.
I'm uploading them to the pinned posts as frequently as I can. They just take a while to process and upload and everything. So I'm gonna go through, build this whole thing. It'll be recorded and then it'll be uploaded to YouTube by the end of the day. So
what's your YouTube channel, Cody, for me to subscribe? I mean, I did many of your videos till now, so
it is in the pinned post. So if you go to CPython 2020 on Mattermost, and then you click on this pin, up here there is links to every single video that I have recorded and posted so far. So they're all there.
So in the Mattermost, right?
Yep. All right. So let's get started. I'm in my virtual environment. Go into Django, March 2020. So I'm going to call this Django admin start project books and logs, because it's books and authors with login registration. Start project. Whoopsies, I can't spell. All right, so then go into books and logs. Dot. Open this bad boy up. And then I also want to I'm going to make two apps. Start app, log reg app, books authors app.
Oh, you can make two in one line? That's good.
I actually don't know.
Oh,
I don't know why I did this. No, you can't. I don't know why I thought I could do that. I have no idea.
It's still early-ish.
Yeah, but like I've never done that. Why would I don't know why I did that. All right, Python manage.py startup. So I've got my two apps, right? So let's start with planning out our models, right? Start with our users. I need my user to have a first name, last name, email, and password. So actually, first step is going to be getting everything hooked up.
Settings.url.
Yep. So in my settings.py, I want to add my log reg app and my books authors app. And then in urls.py, don't want admin, include path, and then I'll have this one start at nothing and then go to include log reg app.urls, and then path call it dashboard. We'll go to include books books authors app.urls. Cool. All right. So now let's start with
and behind all of the statistics, of course, there are countless individuals desperately.
Okay. So in my logreg app, I need to set up my models. So I'm going to have class user models.model, right? Because I need to be able to use the Django model functionality. I want to have a first name, which is going to be a models.char field, max length equals, and let's say, I don't know, 35 characters. Last name is going to be a models.char field with a max length of 35. Char field? It's like a Charizard meets a Bulbasaur.
Is it like a Charmander meets Garfield?
It is now. Yes. Okay, email is going to be a models.char field. And I'll say max length equals, I'll say 45. Give it an extra 10.
I
And
wish I
then
could make a
password.
Django project this quickly.
One day you will.
Yeah.
All right, so one thing I want to point out with this password field, right? Even though the assignment itself says the password should be at least 8 characters, you're going to want to put your char field with a max length of at least, I think it's 65 characters. I go 75 just to be safe. And the reasoning for that is when we put our passwords in the database, we're going to be encrypting them, which means that they're going to become hashed and encrypted, and they're going to be much longer than the original password actually is. So make sure that your max length is at least 75 or 65 characters. Even though this form has a confirmed PW, we're not actually going to be putting that in the database because that's just for logging in, double checking that, or for registering, making sure that they put the right password. So we're going to leave that one out. And then, of course, created at equals models dot date time field with auto now add equals true, so that when it's first created and put in the database, it does not, it gets created. Please keep your mics muted while, if you're not immediately asking your question.
Yeah, the confirm password, we are just, we are not putting it in the database, but we have it on the website, right?
Yes, because all we're going to be doing is checking to see that whatever the user puts in this field matches what's put in that field, but then we don't actually put this field in the database.
Okay,
It's
and
just for checking.
the password field checks the password in the database.
Yes, yeah. Updated at equals models dot date time field auto now equals true.
Oh,
So
so if
that-
you don't put like a post request or whatever in the confirm password, does it just not do anything with what you put in there?
Yeah. Yep, we're going to have to manually bring that in. Okay, so I've got my user model set up. So before, let's see, how do I want to handle this? All right, let's go take a look in here at our books and authors app to set those models up. So now, one of the things that I'm trying to go for here is have everything be connected. Why is this not? Okay, there we go. I want to have all of my models connected in some way, which means that I'm going to have to set up a relationship between my users and my books and authors. But I currently have my users in my LogReg app, and I'm going to have my books and authors models in my books authors app. So what I'm going to have to do in here is from logreg app.models import all so that I can use users. So let's look. I have a book and an author. So let's start with class book. It's models.model. And then our book has a title and a description. So let's start with that. Title equals models.char field. Max length equals, I don't know, 75. Description, because somebody can write a long description, I'm just going to say models.text field. And then, of course, created at equals models.datetime field with auto now add equals true, and an updated at with a models.datetime field auto now equals true. But I'm trying to build this so that I can link a book or an author to the user who first posted it on this site. So I'm going to add another field called uploaded by, and it's going to be a models.foreign key. It's going to relate back to my user, and I'll put related name equals books posted with a on delete equals models.cascade. So what this is doing,
So wait. Oh, okay. Sorry. Where do we
No
have the books posted?
it's not on this. I'm combining two assignments for this demo. This is not actually part of this base assignment. I'm doing
Okay.
this because this is going to be good practice for the belt exam for you guys.
Yeah.
Because that's what the belt exam is going to be. It's essentially going to be an application similar to this paired with login and registration. So this I'm doing because I want to be able to link my user with a book. So if a user logs in and creates a book in this application, I want it to be recognized that they're the one that posted it.
Can we look at the complete code, Cody, uploaded by models.foreign key? After that, users.
It's just setting up
Okay.
a foreign key to the user field, to the user model.
Okay, to the user model and books posted on.
I forgot what the related name is for.
The related name is so that when I go, if I pull, if I'm looking at a specific user and I want to get access to the list of books that user has posted, I can access that via the related name from the
You
user.
don't have to just put in user. Oh, because that's the whole class.
Mhm.
Oh,
So
is
it's
that what?
basically implicitly creating another field in here called books posted.
Okay.
That was the question. I mean, where did you put books posted? What is it pulling in the models?
I didn't put it anywhere. This is setting up a foreign key. This is on the platform in the one-to-many relationships section. Back in Django RM, one-to-many relationships.
Mhm.
To indicate a one-to-many relationship between models, Django uses a special field foreign key. Consider these models where one author can write many books and one book can be written by only one author, right? Because what I'm trying to do with my application is I'm trying to make it so that a user can post a book. A user can post a whole bunch of books, right? A user can post as many books as they want to on this website, but each book is only actually posted by a single author. So I'm creating a one-to-many relationship between the book and the user. All right. So I have that. This is not actually here, but Django is going to essentially build it in so that I can access it. All right, let's look at the next class that I want to build, which is the authors, right? So I'm going to have class author models.model. There's going to be a first name, which is going to be a models.char field with a max length of, I don't know, 35. Last name equals models.char field, max length of 35. And then notes models.text field, because that's what I have here, first name, last name, notes. And then I also want to have the same thing, have it be that the author has a single user link to it, which is the user that actually posted the author into the database. So I'll say uploaded by equals models.foreign key user related name equals authors created on delete equals models.cascade.
So this is going to create two fields in authors in users, right?
Right.
It's going to create two. Okay, books posted and author create. Okay, posted. Authors
books created, authors created. So I changed both of them.
Right. You are using.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
So Django does it.
Yes, Django is doing it automatically. I'm just putting it here as comments so that if I look at my user class, I know that I have a relationship set up just at first glance. Okay. So now the last thing that I need to set up is recognizing the last thing I need to set up in terms of the models. Obviously, I need to have created at models.date time field auto now add equals true and updated.
Cody,
add.
what happens if we don't have created and updated it? Is it not gonna take it, or is it gonna show error, or
no? It'll take it and it'll be there. It's just these are standard fields. In the industry, anytime that you have database entries, there's almost always going to be a default created at, updated at, or it's going to be expected to be default.
No, when
so
we are
that you can
creating a
keep
model,
track of.
when we're creating a model, the ID is automatically generated, so we can call the model by the ID.
Yeah.
So when do we use the created and updated? What do you use it for?
If I want to filter based on posts created within a certain time range, or I want to say give me all of the books created within the past 10 days or greater than 10 days ago, created at and updated at are going to be the things that can help you do those kinds of actions
according to the dates. Okay.
Could those be used in like forensics if there was like a hack? You could see when something was added.
Potentially. Yeah. Okay, so the last thing that I want to make sure that I set up, right? Because if we look here, we have it set up so that I can post authors to a book or books to an author, right? I can make it so that a book is written by more than one author, and I want to be able to make it so that an author can obviously write more than one book. So what kind of relationship is this going to be?
One to many, many.
Many to many relationship.
Many to many.
Yep. So I'm going to say books equals models dot many to many field. And this is going to relate to the book object. Related name is going to be authors. And that's all I need, so that implicitly now book has a authors list. And that is automatically handled and created by Django. All right. So now I have my user class set up. I have my book class set up and my author class set up.
Where's your user class?
It is in the models.py of my login registration app.
It's in
the
another
login registration app is kind of the
I see.
The user itself is kind of the driving model of this application.
Okay.
Books authors application, handles books and authors. If I really wanted to modularize this as much as humanly possible, I would have a book app and an author app.
So the books and the authors, do they both belong to the user?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Because a user can create books and a user can create authors as well.
Okay. Is that because of the foreign key that they belong to the user? Okay.
Exactly.
Well, you have foreign key and you have many to many. Okay.
Yep.
Hey, Cody.
Yes.
For your at line 2 in your models, so you're importing from your other app. On mine, I have it written as like from login app import models as login _ models. So I'm actually like giving a name to it. But
you can do that if you want to, but
this
you don't
would
have
be fine.
to. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's double check everything is all hunky dory. What is going on here? Okay. Let's make sure that everything looks good, and let's go Python manage.py make migrations. No module named logreg app URLs. Okay, I didn't create the urls.py in either of these apps, so let me just do that so I can handle my my migrations. And I'm just going to leave these empty. So Django.urls import path URL patterns equals empty list. And then in here the same thing from Django.urls import path and URL patterns equals empty list.
When it becomes a relevant thing to do, maybe put a CSRF token.
You guys are taking the fun out of all of this.
We're probably not there yet. I don't know if we're at that step. I don't know.
All right, so this looks good. It made a migration in the login registration app. It created the model user, and then in the books and authors app, it created the model book and author. So if I Python manage.py migrate, I have now created all of the models, and I can double check that here. I'm going to open DB browser for SQLite 3, open database, this PC, Acer, users, this one, documents, Dojo, instruction, Python, Django, March 20, books and logs, DB SQLite 3. We have an author, a book, a user, and the author books, which is the many-to-many relationship. So good. All of the tables are created. My database is good to go. Now let's start with login and registration, right? We have a few validations in here that we need to set up. First name should be, it's obviously required, and it should be at least 2 characters and letters only. Last name, same thing, required, at least 2 characters, letters only. Email has to be required and a valid email address. Format, password is required, at least 8 characters, and it matches the password confirmation. All right, so let's start with first name and last. Well, let's start with, setting up the actual validator. So we need to make a manager. So I'm going to say class user manager is going to be a models.manager, because this is where all of our validation methods are going to exist for the user. And I'm going to say registration validation, or for short, regval.
If your route is models.manager, but your class is user manager and not just manager, then how does it get to it?
Well, I haven't set it up to actually connect here yet, but what I'll have to do is say objects equals user manager.
Oh.
This models.model makes it so that we can use these to define the properties of all of these fields. Okay. This models.manager essentially makes it so that we can call this function from this thing .objects.
Oh.
So that's all that this is for. It essentially it adds extra functionality to that objects terminology that we use so frequently.
Okay.
All right. So regval needs 2 things: self, and then our post data, because we're going to be sending our request.post through to this function.
I still don't really understand the managers. Like, what do you get from models.manager?
So in our views.py, when we want to run the validations, right, we say errors equal user.objects.regval, right?
Right.
And put request.post in there. If we didn't use this as a manager, user.objects is a very specific set of functionalities built into Django. The manager, what the manager does is it extends the list of methods built into objects so that we can consider regval as part of that objects. So when we say user.objects.regval, if we just had, if we just had it like this, it would not work.
So why wouldn't we just put the function regval in class user?
Because I'm fairly certain that it would not like. I mean, this is like very specific to Django. Like, this is built-in Django functionality. It's built to do this for specific reasons. I don't know exactly why. Let's see. Django, why use a manager rather than build a method?
Isn't it because manager's on top? That is like it, Python reads top to bottom, and if it's unable to read it from the top, then it doesn't know what you're talking about in the user class later.
Not quite. So from just a pure functionality standpoint, if we built, def reg val self post data into here. All right, let's do this.
You're going to migrate
Nope, I'm not doing
reg
anything
values.
yet. I'm not doing anything yet because we're still in the middle of checking some stuff out.
No, when if you build it in the models, you should
Nope.
even migrate it, right?
Nope, don't have to migrate it because it's not actually being put into the database in any way. The migrations
Okay.
are only for handling stuff that's going to translate into the database.
Okay.
If I were to build a method in here and say print hello, for example, if I later said some guy equals user.objects.get ID equals 3, I could just say some guy dot reg val, right? But this registration validation is not supposed to be for an instance of a user, right? Because if the user already exists, the idea is we have already validated that everything is okay to go. Building the validation into that .objects makes it so that we don't need to have an instance of a user class in order to validate a user class, right? Because that's kind of redundant and also a problem. Make it so that you essentially leave it to the object to check itself, but if the object is already wrong, then it's already too late, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. So we have to build our reg val. First step for all of our validations is make the empty error dictionary. And then, errors. And then let's break it down. So I want to say, what are the validations that I want? First name required, min 2 characters, letters only. Last name required, min 2 characters, letters only. Email required, valid email format. Password required, min 8 characters, matches confirm. Because I need this to match this. So let's start here. Required and min 2 characters can both be built into the same thing. If the length of the post of the submitted field is 0, then it's blank. If it's 1, it's not blank, but it's still less than 2 characters. So I can just say if the length of post data first name, and I'm just going to have all of my fields in the form be named the same thing, just so that I can do this here easily without having to look back at stuff. So if the length of the field is less than 2 characters, I want to say errors, reg, first name, or no, I'll just do errors, first name equals your first name must be a minimum of 2 characters. Or if I want it to be even more specific, I could say if the length is 0, I'll just make it say first name is required. Else if the length of post data first name is less than 2, errors first name is first name must be at least 2 characters in length. Else, and now this one is the trickiest, which is letters only, right? If we go up to pattern validation, it gives us a nice code snippet for the email address, but we can use something like this. So if post data first name dot is alpha, so this should return a Boolean about whether this is just alphabetic characters. So I should say elif not. So if this returns back false, then errors first name equals first name can only contain letters. Cool. So that handles all of my first name validations. Now, the last name has the same exact validations as first name. So I'm going to be lazy and do the same thing. Cool. Easy peasy, right? If the length of the first name is 0, there's a first name error which says first name is required. If otherwise, if the length of the first name field is less than 2 characters, say the first name must be at least 2
You
characters.
could have it just without the first if. If it's 0, you could have it be at least 2 characters. Say at least 2 characters too.
Yeah, and I could. I absolutely could, but I'm going for being more as explicit as possible. Just
Cool.
maybe I wanted to literally just check for it being blank and say something different. But yeah, I think for the most part, and every time that I've done something like this, I have had it just be the one that says it has to be at least this many characters. So yes, that is absolutely a valid option. All right, so I'm actually going to build one more validation into the email. Email should be required. It should be a valid email format, and it should not already in database. I want to make sure that the email address that somebody's trying to sign up with has not already been put into the database. So let's start with the required. So that's going to be the same thing. If the length of post data email equals 0, errors email is, email address is required. Elif the len of, okay, so this is just a copy paste kind of thing here. The way that I like to handle these kinds of regexes is I just put them at the very, very top of this file for just in case I need to do this several times. So I can say if not email regex dot match post data email. So what this is doing, so one thing, regex means regular expression. Essentially what it does is it takes this pattern here and it says, I want to make sure that the first section that there's some combination of letters, both lowercase and capitals, and numbers. And I think dot. I'm still not. I'm not great with regex, honestly. My recommendation for regex is not so much learn exactly how it works, but learn how to say regex for 8 characters, or regex for something like letters, numbers, and special characters, because there are so many options, and then you just need to be able to go test things. I think there's actually a regex library where you can literally just look up things. Like if I say email, it'll say overly simple email. Simple email expression doesn't allow numbers in the domain name and doesn't allow for top level domains that are less than 2 or more than 3 characters, which is fine until they allow more. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. This is just regexlib.com.
So for the belt exam, we can copy this regex. And,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. For the belt exam, I would literally just say, use this.
Can you explain not real quick? Like, I just don't really get it grammatically. Like, if not something.
Do you remember this syntax from JavaScript?
Did we have not in?
Well, it was just an exclamation mark.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. So an if conditional is saying if this condition amounts to true, right?
Right.
So if not would be if that condition does not amount to true, or if this condition amounts to false.
I guess where I'm stuck is just like I would put the not at the end of right before the colon grammatically, and it's just kind of throwing me a little bit.
Yeah, grammatically that would make a little bit more sense, I think. But it's just Python syntax specifically.
Okay.
It requires it to be in the front here. All right, so if this, or the other thing that I could also say is that if that equals false, does exactly the same thing. So you can do it either way.
I think this one makes more sense. It's
Yeah,
not
that makes a lot
confusing.
more sense.
Yeah, this one's easier to understand. I'm just used to doing it that way, but I'll leave it in like this for you guys.
Okay.
So the other one is LF, so post data last name is not alphabetic. Okay.
Yeah, so if the first name or last name is not just alphabetical characters, then there's an error. So I'll leave those the way that they are here, and then I'll leave this one here so that you guys see both of the options. All right, so if the regex match returns false, then errors email equals email address. There must
Not valid.
be, invalid email address. So now this is where things get a little bit hairier. I'm trying to get fancy and say I also want to check uniqueness in the database. So what I'm going to do here is say users equals user.objects.filter email equals post data email. So take the email address from the form that was submitted, filter out and get all of the user objects with that email address. And the reason I'm doing filter, even though there should only be one, because I'm building this uniqueness validation, .get will give us an error. So I'm just going to say.
Where do you have .get?
I don't have .get.
Oh.
I'm explaining why I'm using filter instead of .get. Okay. So elif the length of users is greater than 0. So if this filter returns any users with the email address that was put into the form, then we're going to say errors email equals a user with that email address already exists. If that's you, please try and log in.
So can you explain this one more time, Cody? I mean,
Yes.
the user
Yes.
there you're using it. I mean,
Yes.
I'm trying to get it. Let me
Yes.
try to explain it.
Yes. Okay. So
Users equal to
user.objects.filter email equals post data email will get all of the user objects from the database where that object's email address matches the email address that was submitted in the form. So if I have a user in my database already registered to a specific email, that I don't want to let my system create another user with the same email address. I'm trying to keep it so that there can only be one user per email address.
No. When you put the filter here,
Yeah.
you're calling users. You're calling only the email address, right?
No. This
Or
okay.
all the objects are only the email address.
No,
What
okay.
does the filter do
User.
here?
Okay. Let me write this down. This command will get all user objects from the database whose email address matches the email address submitted in the form.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. That's a file set. Yeah. The await result is what I was referring to. A participant has left the conference.
Okay, so this gets all, even though I'm saying filter email, I'm not saying only give me the email address. I'm saying give me all of the user objects in the database with this specific email address. So that's what that's doing. That is saying get all of the users in the database with a specific email address. If there are any users in the database that have that email address, then it'll return them. If there are none, then it will return an empty list, right? So the reason that I'm doing this is I want to see, because this becomes a list, because that's what filter returns. Filter returns a list of objects from the database based on a specific condition. This condition being matching the email address. So if the length of this list is anything other than 0, if the list is greater than, if the list length is 2, 3, 1, 17, 27, however many elements, if it's not 0, then that means we already have a user in our database with that email address, so we don't want to let somebody else use the same email address to register a new user.
Well, it's only ever going to be 0 or 1, right? Because you have to check in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that users dot objects filter line? Is that part of an if statement where you're checking it?
No, so I'm just setting it here because I'm going to be needing it here.
Oh, okay. I see.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Or I could just take this whole thing. Oops, and post it, then just put it there,
Okay.
and then I wouldn't need that line. But
Okay.
I want to keep it like this so that, because again, I'm going to be putting this on GitHub and having, this recording, and I think this is going to be useful for you guys for a little bit more explanation.
If you leave it up there, then you can refer to it multiple times, right?
Yeah, but I'm not going to need to in this. So this is
Right.
more of just for readability sake.
Okay.
Cool. So if the length of that list is greater than 0, then a user with that email address already exists. If that's you, please try and log in. All right, so now the password is required, must be at least 8 characters, and the password must match, Mila, what are you doing? Must match the confirm password field. So we'll start with required. If the length of post data password equals 0, errors password equals password is required. Else if
Don't we have a regex for password?
no, not for this one. This is just required at least 8 characters and matches password confirmation.
You can request an appointment with me.
Okay.
You have my name on the page.
That's all I'm worried about right now is just at least 8 characters.
But you could have a regex, right?
Yeah, I could if
yeah.
I wanted it to be like must be 8 characters, lowercase, uppercase, and number, something like that. But then you would
Honestly,
essentially
I hate those so much.
You would essentially end up doing the same thing
is
here.
So easy to crack compared to that password. It's like, what's the point of having the forget password?
Yeah.
So you can have elif password,
so
length of
elif,
password is
the length of post data password
less than 8.
Yep. Less than 8.
For 4 to 6 weeks.
Error password.
Okay.
Minimum 88.
errors password
Okay.
equals password must be a minimum, or must be at least 8 characters in length. And then the last one is going to be elif post data password does not equal post data confirm PW, because that's what I'll call that field. If the two fields do not match, errors password equals passwords do not match. And then, of course, return the errors. So this is a big hunk of code here. That's not too bad. It's 4 sets of checks. Not terrible.
Could you explain the confirm PW?
Yes.
Is that you're
1 second.
telling it not to worry about that? You're not inputting that into the database?
Well, yeah, because I don't care about having it be in the database, but the reason that I have this confirm password field is that, you know, if somebody's putting their password and they say my password is password 123,
I see.
but they accidentally leave out some letters or something, and then in their
That's the
confirm
check
password,
that
yeah,
it is.
this is just
Okay.
making sure that the 2 password fields actually match when they fill out the form.
I
so that
forgot
they
you're
don't.
actually gonna need to connect that and make it actually
Yeah.
functional. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
All right. So our registration validator is done. Cool.
Where are we using this? Sorry, registration validator?
I haven't hooked it up yet to do anything.
Okay.
I'm just creating it. I'm going to be using it for the registration method. All right. So now let's take a look at our urls.py for our project.
Hey Cody, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So the line when you're adding if length post data name is equal to 0.
Mm-hmm.
When I try to do that on my already made login and register, I get an error called int object is not subscriptable. I don't know if you've seen that before, or if that's more something you need to look at my code. It's only when I add that line equal to 0, then I started getting the error.
Let me see your code.
Okay, let me show this.
Did you potentially?
Screen. So
No.
Added the line here, added it here, added it here. But it bounces off this first one. So as soon as I press register blank, then it gives me this error. It points to here and then it points to this.
Let me see your HTML form.
For the
For your
login.
login registration, yeah.
Let's see.
That's strange. Okay, well, I'll just continue, and if I
Okay.
end up running across that error, I have another method that I can think of. So
Okay.
we'll see if I run into the same thing. Solid chance that I will, but still good to check. Thanks for the heads up on that. All right, so my books and logs, I have logregapp.urls. So let's go work on those. My login and registration, I am essentially going to have one path for actually rendering the page. So I will have this just be path empty string, go to views.logreg is what I'll call it. I'm going to have a route to handle the registration, so the actual processing of the form, running the validations, and then if there are no errors, creating an entry in the database. That will be path of register. I'll go to views.register. One for login, which is going to be taking the form that was submitted, processing that form, running the validation that I haven't created the validator for login yet. I will, though, in a little bit. Running that validator, making sure that no errors exist. And if everything's good to go, successfully logging in a user. I'll have that path login, go to views.login. And then the base login registration assignment has me going to the success page, but realistically, I don't want to have a page just to say welcome. I will likely just have it redirect to this dashboard page right here. So I'm not going to need another method here, but I will create one for logging out. So I will say path logout views.logout. So my login registration, when I am building it into another application, will likely only have 4 routes. That's all I'm going to want here. So let's create templates and make our logreg.html. And then in views, I need 4 methods. So def logreg request def register request def login request and def logout request. And I'm just putting pass here so that I can not get errors if I test any one of them before finishing all of them. One thing I do need in here is from.import views. Otherwise, I would not be able to actually access any of these methods. All right, so I have my login registration level URLs file all done. I've got the base structure here working, and all this one is going to do is return render request logreg.html. I know I'm going to need redirect. And then a couple other things that I know I'm going to need. One thing that I know for a fact I'm going to need is bcrypt. So import bcrypt. I think I may not even have it installed in my virtual environment. I'll have to do that in a sec. I know I need bcrypt, and I know I need my flash messages to actually display errors on my page in case validations catch some problems. So from django.contrib,
What's
import
bcrypt?
messages. Bcrypt is how we encrypt our passwords to put in the database. All right, so let me see if everything is okay. Python. Actually, first let me say pip list. I do have bcrypt. Good. Okay, so Python manage.py run server. Testing. Okay, so we are up and running. Everything looks good so far. Now let's build out this page. As always, I like to get Bootstrap just because I have used it so much. I will like it. So let's get it in here.
Is there an option to download if you can just copy the link?
So this link, to be fair, does rely on the site that it's hosted on actually being up and running. If it's taken down for some reason, then your styling will die.
So is it recommended to download it?
Yeah, you can just download the whole library if you want to and put it into your actual project.
Okay, I got a catch-22.
Okay.
You write a program using some import that DDoSes the site that it's importing from.
So you just make a website break because you take down all of their dependencies.
Wow.
You're a devious man, Tori. I'm calling the FBI.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
That's fair. All right. So let's get this set up. container. I'm going to have a row at the top to say, welcome to someplace. And then I'll have a row, and I'm going to break this up into two sides. I'm going to say column small 4, or column 4, column medium, or no, column 12, column medium 4. Again, don't get super hung up on this part specifically. This is just me being fancy. I'm going to do 5. All right, so let's get a row in here. It says H2 register. And then let's get our form going. Action should go to register, right? Because that is, this route is, I'm going to say path and route for processing submitted registration form. Path and route for processing submitted login form. Path and route for displaying forms for login registration. Path and route for logging out a user. All right, just add some readability functionality in there. I've got this one for displaying the form. So form action should go to /register as a post method. Let me do this. All right, so I know that I'm going to have .row, .form group. I'm going to have a label, column 12, columns D4 for first underscore name, first name, input, type text, column 12, column medium 8 for first underscore name. I don't care about ID. Then I know that I'm going to have this guy twice. Oh, hold on, guys. It's the end of the world.
Hey.
I
Oh
remembered.
God. What does this
What does
mean?
form group do?
Groups all the forms.
Are there pigs flying now?
I think there might be. So when I first learned Bootstrap, I absolutely always 100% needed form group to be able to get things grouped together. I think it may be deprecated, and this is just habits for me. So I'm honestly not sure exactly what it does, and I don't want to give you a bullshit excuse or explanation that doesn't actually mean anything. So I'll leave it at that.
Okie dokie.
So both of these should be email. This guy should be last. This should be email. Password. And on this one, this is going to be type equals password. So you can't see it. Password. And this is going to be, what did I have it set as? I had it as confirm underscore PW.
Yeah.
Confirm PW. Confirm PW. Confirm. I'll just leave it as that. And then one last one. Row form group. Oh wait, shit. Input class for all of these. I also want to have form control just because it looks nice. Actually, no, I'll leave them. I will leave them. So this will be column 3. Input, submit, column 4, column empty 6, register. All right, let's refresh and see what it looks like. Ooh, welcome to someplace. Register first name. Whoa, no, 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 no. No bueno.
Your text field's too big? Is that what you don't like?
Yeah, it's too tall.
That's weird. Is this like a bootstrap thing, maybe?
Yeah, it is Bootstrap.
Oh, okay.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do.
Is that what form group does? Is that it groups that all together in the form?
I guess, kinda. But the reason that this is becoming an issue is this should really just be 6. Hmm. Hmm. All right, I'm going to brute force this. What? That was even worse. Don't like that you're doing this. Okay, maybe this does actually form control. I'll take that. I'll just put that on all of them.
Use float right. That fixes everything.
Float right, bad.
Float left. That or display inline block, that usually fixes all your problems. It's probably one of those. Hey,
That looks much better. I'll take that.
looks good. What did
Form
you do?
control. I just
Form
put form
control?
control. Yeah.
What does that do?
It fixes it, apparently.
it controls the forms.
It controls the form and it makes me happy. So we're gonna we're gonna just take it. Yeah, I don't know honestly why it did that or is doing this, but it looks okay, so I'll take it. Now, so let's handle this method before we move on. So if I fill stuff out and I click on register, I want it to run the validation. So I'll say errors equals, up here I need to import my models. So from dot models import all errors equals user dot objects dot reg val request dot post. And then I'll say if the length of errors is greater than 0, I want to loop through that errors dictionary. So for key value in errors.items, and then I want to use the flash messages to create error messages. So messages.error, and then I need to have request, because that's just how this is built, value, and then I'm going to use extra tags.
Error singular, not plural there?
Yep. because I'm trying to create a single error message for each thing.
How does the flash messages thing work again?
You will see in 1 second. So there's
Sure.
one way that I could do it is like this. For message and messages. So if messages make a UL. All right, so if I did it this way, direct. Check my server. It is not even running the server. Okay. If I submit this, flash messages, right? It takes these key value pairs that we created in our errors dictionary and the validations, loops through them and creates one of these messages that will pop up on this screen because we set it up to do so.
How
So it's
is it?
just so that we can have our system tell the user, hey, you're trying to log in, you did it wrong.
Where are the messages actually linked into that? Messages and then.
Yeah, so messages is a
Oh,
built-in thing, so we don't
yeah.
need to like actually put it anywhere. Messages is
Okay.
handled automatically.
Oh, so you call it in the Jinja?
Yes.
Okay, I see.
If
I think I get it,
messages for
kind of.
message and messages, print the message, and for end if.
Okay.
So if there's
Cody,
no
I have a
error
question.
messages, yes.
Always we create the error like when we done to migrate, like to make the migration.
You mean like with this?
Yeah.
No, you don't need to make migrations with this because this is not the migrations are only for when you make changes to the user class.
Okay.
Minus this field. This field you don't need because it's just these because these are the things that are going in the database itself, right?
Yep.
This does not translate to the database, so we don't need to migrate or make migrations.
Okay.
All right. I want to get fancy, so I'm going to get fancy. Okay, let's see.
Could you actually go back real quick and explain how you turn error into messages?
Yeah. Okay. So when I click submit and I click, it worked. What? I don't know. Whatever. If I click register, right, it will take this form and whatever's in here and submit it. It'll go to /register,
right,
which is my register method. And then I say errors equals user.objects.regval request.post. So I'm taking request.post and sending it to my validator. It goes through and I create an errors dictionary, right? Starts as empty. And then I say, and I check each individual field that that I care about, right?
That I get that makes your errors dictionary.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you get that. So now this part is saying errors. This is the errors dictionary that gets returned from here. So if that dictionary is not empty, we want to loop through each key value pair in the dictionary and create a flash message for each one.
Where
Messages.
does the word error come from? Like, is there another variable called error?
This is built into the messages package that we are importing from Django.contrib.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a specific thing that's built in. It takes request, it takes a value, and you can give it extra tags if you want to. But yeah, so this is very specific to this error. No, it's not. Let me see what happens if I say messages.error. Huh, no, it doesn't care at all. right, so never mind. Sometimes it'll like give you hints about what is in there. For some reason, mine is not.
So I just don't really get what's going on in that for loop.
Okay, so errors is the dictionary, right?
Right.
I'm looping through and checking each key value pair.
Right.
In each key value pair, what is the key and what is the pair? What is the value, right? What's the key?
Last name for that one.
And then the value is?
Last name is required.
Right. So the value in the key value pair is the actual error message that I want to show up on the page, right?
Right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So I'm creating an error message with each key value pair in that dictionary. So request, it needs request because I think it essentially puts it into session and then deletes it after it renders it. I don't know exactly how it does it, but I'm fairly certain that's exactly what's happening behind the scenes.
What's
So
dot items?
So if we were to do just this,
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me restart the server. Too many values to unpack, expected to. So it, for some reason, it doesn't like if you try and iterate through a dictionary unless you say dot items. So I think what's happening is it's trying to iterate through, but since each actual entry in the dictionary is actually two things, it gets confused and it says, I'm not gonna bother doing this.
So
So
dot items is just to make it nice for key value, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we do want to split it up into key and value pairs so that we could just put the error message in if we wanted, or we can also use the key for the extra tags, which I like to do because I like to have the error messages pop up specific to each individual field. And I'll get that in here.
Okay.
Now, yes, Tash, you have a question. No, Tash, you do not have a question?
Sorry, I never unmuted myself. Oops.
Oh.
Sorry, yeah. So for now, you just have the one page. Is that right?
Yes, all I have so far is this.
Can you show me the route where you just have it set, maybe the URLs, I think? So you just have it as, like, do you have it as a blank path, and that's what leads you to just the localhost 8000, and you don't have to have like a /books or whatever?
Yep.
Okay, so is that first one, the views.logreg?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
And then
Thanks.
logreg renders logreg.html, which is this one.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
It seems useful to sometimes just have it be localhost 8000 and not / something.
Mm-hmm. If messages for message in messages, if message.extra tags equals first name, then I want to make a p tag with a class of text danger, column 12, and put the message in there. And if, and for, and if.
So was the extra tags a built-in thing, or you said it was optional?
Yes, it is optional, but it is by default. It's built in. It's a built-in optional functionality of the Flash messages.
Okay.
So it makes it so that I can do, I can have it specific to each thing.
Right.
It's thing that's annoying is that the documentation for Flash messages actually is trash. So it's not easy to figure this part out at all. I figured it out through just bashing my head into the keyboard and trial and error.
I was trying to figure that out for so long last night.
Yep. So,
is there a way to do another optional one? Like, could you have multiple, like extra tags too? Is there another?
I don't think so. No.
You can only have one.
I think there is a tags and an extra tags, but I've had trouble getting just the vanilla tags to work, so I just do extra tags.
So extra tags will be any value you have saved for your messages?
So the way that I have it set up is that I'm
It's
taking
every key. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just using the key.
Okay.
And I'm making sure that the key matches what I put in here. So if it's first name, it's going to be the error for the first name. If the extra tag is last name, it's going to be the error message for the last name. If the extra tag is email, it'll be the error message for the email. If it's password, it'll be for the password, etc. So let's check here. It should look nice. Yep. Cool. So I can get rid of this guy up here now. See, look how nice and neat that is. It's just
Wait, what
right
did you
on
get rid
each
of
thing.
and why?
Oh, so in here I had this up here also.
Oh, you put them next to your.
So it was doing it
I
at
see.
both. But if I have it popping up there, then I don't need it up there also. So I could just get rid of this guy.
That's like professional style.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
How about for confirmation, like password?
I don't really care about having one separately for that because it's the password specifically that I care about. So I don't need to have two things pop up. It's just password is required, and then if I do something like this, it'll just say passwords do not match.
Yeah, for example, I was thinking like for confirmation password, when someone like on the second after he put the password, and when he put the confirmation password and it's not matching, so it's gonna give him only for the one word general.
Wait, repeat that?
I said like when registering, like when I put like my password and the second one I put like confirmation password.
Okay.
The message I'm gonna get is gonna, if it is not matching, I'm gonna get one only message in general. Like I was thinking, you can separate like the message to say like.
I mean, yeah. So you can do it if you want to, but me personally, the field that I'm actually concerned with is the password. If the confirm password doesn't match password, then I'm just going to say the passwords don't match and just put it on one, right? If I essentially I have it set up so there's a hierarchy to the importance of each thing. Most important thing is there has to be a password. If a password is put in, then the next thing that needs to be checked is that it's a long enough password. If the password is long enough, then we can worry about whether or not they do or do not match. So I don't really want to have the option of multiple things showing up. I would just rather have it say, this is the thing that you need to worry about. It's required. You have to put something in before. Otherwise, it'll be like your first name is required, and first name must be at least 2 characters, and first name can only contain letters. It's like, yeah, but okay, I get it, but you could have just told me that I left the field blank, and I would have been able to do something. So you can have it be split up between password and confirm password and show as many error messages as you want. I don't like that though. So, but I'm not going to like dock points on your belt exam if you go that route. So,
Okay.
So this is similar to what our belt might look like.
well, you're going to need to have login registration on your belt. Yes, that is a guarantee. I promise.
Okay.
Yay, responsive styling.
Oh.
Woohoo. Cool. All right, so we've got the first part of the register done, right? Which is running the validations. Yes, somebody had a question. Or somebody was about to say something.
Do we even need to do the responsive styling?
No, you don't. This is just So
we can just do
yeah,
column,
you can just do
column 12. That's
yes,
it.
yeah, absolutely.
We don't have to put a medium or small. We don't have
right.
to do anything.
You don't have to do any of that. You just need it. I need to be able to see the form is all really. Don't have it just be like one inline set of inputs. That's essentially the limit of my concern when it comes to this stuff. The only reason that I'm doing this is before I was an instructor, I was working on a project, and a lot of my core responsibilities were getting responsive styling working and making it flexible based on whether you were looking at it on a computer or mobile or a tablet. So this is just like pet peeves that are just ingrained in my brain. But don't worry about replicating this.
Ingrained, if you will.
Yes. What did I say? Oh, did you say inbrained?
I did.
Okay, cool. I was like, wait, did I not say ingrained? No, I did. All right, cool. So my login form, my register form is done, but now I need to do what if there are no errors. So else. So now what I want to do is create the user in the database. But before I do that, the last thing that I want to do is put a user's password in here as the actual password, right? This should never show up in my database. I don't want to be able to see that. So I got to encrypt that bad boy. So here is how you do that. Let's see. So I need bcrypt. So I'm going to say password or hashed pw equals bcrypt.hashpw. So I need to have the password that I'm trying to encrypt, which is request.post password. And then I need to encode it. And then bcrypt.gensalt. And then decode the whole thing. I am not going to pretend like I actually know how it is encrypting the password. All I can tell you is it encodes the password that was put in with some salt that's generated and then decodes it or something. I don't know. Just know you need this line. This is 100% necessary. This is a whole encryption process. It's not supposed to be a thing that you can figure out because then it wouldn't be very secure, would it?
And we can copy the line and paste it, right?
Right. So on your, let's see, where is it? In the bcrypt section.
The salt's really important. Otherwise, it turns out a little bland.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this line right here. The only thing that I really want you to make sure that you are not just copy and pasting blindly is this, test. A string of test is not the thing that you're trying to put in your database. But yes, you can copy and paste this in here. This can absolutely be copy and pasted. Just make sure, not the whole thing, but this part at least. Right, these two lines here. Because this doesn't actually have everything that we need in our database. All right, so hash password is this. I'm using bcrypt to actually hash the password and encode it to put in my database. And then I'm going to say user.objects, or actually I'm going to say new user equals, and I'll explain why in a second. .create first name equals request .post first underscore name. Let me organize this a little bit better so it's easier to read. Last name equals request .post last name. Email equals request .post email. And password equals request .post password. Now, as for why I'm taking a random variable, oh wait, no, not this one. I don't want it to be request.post password. I want it to be the hashed password. So I want to take the encrypted password and put that in the database. All right, so the reason why I'm using this variable here, right? The way that I'm going to be able to make sure that a user is actually logged into my website is through session. So I need that because I need to grab the ID of the user I just created and put that in session. New _ user.
Oh.
So I'm going to say request session user ID equals new user.id. And then what? I don't know what just happened there. And then return redirect dashboard, I think I have it as. Yeah, just dashboard. Okay, so that is the whole register method. Now, if I submit an invalid one, it says no. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Whoops, I didn't even change that as a password. Or set that as a input type equals password.
Okay, everyone, copy down. Cody's passwords are going to be 1, 2, 3.
This is the set of login credentials that I will use to test all of your belt exams. I'll use other things too, but this is just my.
Try it anyway. It might work on his Facebook.
It will not. I use this for 0 actual passwords. Cool. So it did work though. It's just trying to take me to dashboard, which I haven't set up to actually do anything. So now if I come into my database and I refresh.
You didn't write the HTML for dashboard
Yeah,
yet?
I don't actually have a view set up for it or anything. But my database shows that I have hello darkness. Email is myold@friend.com. And the password is a jumbled, mumbled mishmash of stuff that makes no sense whatsoever with a created at and an updated at. So that's neat. Our login or our registration is donezo.
I didn't know that hashes had like periods and slashes and dollar signs.
Yeah, they do indeed. At least.
Cody, did you say if there's later on we learn a little more about encryption?
No, we don't. This is
it.
the extent of the encryption that we teach. But I have a little bit of background on it, so feel free to ask me questions, and I'm good to answer as much as I know about.
I don't know if it's relevant, but I was
just
curious how the computer decrypts that hashed key thing.
It doesn't.
Oh, like it's eventually going to need to, right? To get what the password is?
Nope. So that's going to be the next step that I'll show you. Essentially, what's going to happen is you will be taking what the user puts in as the password here, encrypting that, and matching the encrypted password against this password. So, but you're never actually going to decrypt this.
Okay.
If you were able to decrypt it, it wouldn't be a very strong encryption.
Okay.
All right. So,
is there any way that the encryption process would be really wonky and like create a hash that's like 100 characters?
I don't think so.
Because wouldn't that like create an error?
Yes.
Yeah. So wouldn't it be better just in case to have no limit on your text field for the password? Or is that just not going to happen? Like what if they put like a certain character that hashes a certain way, like a capital W might do more space or something?
I don't think so, because this is 30 something characters. I think it always ends up being 65 characters in length.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so, because I remember counting it. There was one day where I actually input like 30 different passwords to see if it was anything else, and I seem to remember it being 65 characters like every time. It was a long day. It was a very long day. I didn't like that day, but I wanted to know. I wanted to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could always err on the side of caution and just set your character field to like 600 characters or something like that, just in case. But it shouldn't be an issue. All right. Cool. So the register form is done. Now it's time to do the login. Wait, what? Where does this guy come from? Right there. But then where does this guy come from? I have an extra div tag, closing tag somewhere. All right. Cool. So this is that. And now let's do the next one. So this is going to be the login form. All right, so let's make a row h2 log in. And let's get this form going. So form action is /login, method equals post. And because I've already remembered and the sky's falling and it's the end of the world, CSRF token, and then row form group. So label, column 12, column medium 4. This is going to be
CSRF token. Does it have to be in any particular place, or can it be before the in every form? Does it have to be after the form?
No, it just has to be inside of the actual form. I just always put it as the first thing. Okay, so
it can be anywhere inside the form, right? It can be after the class.
I am fairly certain, yes, but it has to be in the form tag itself.
Yeah, inside the form, anywhere inside the form. Yeah, that was the question.
Fairly certain that it can be anywhere in there. I'm not 100% sure, but I haven't really tested it. It's fine right there. So label for email, and then we'll say email, input, type text, column 12, column medium 8, name is email. All right, and then let's take this, just paste it. Password. Password. All right, so I have my email, my password, row, form group.
Still says email one more time in the.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Name.
Very much. Column 4. Input, submit, column 4. Column 6, column medium 4. Value is log in. And then there's something I wanted to add in here. So btn primary. I want to do the same thing for my register one because that looks nicer. Okay, so now I'm going to switch that guy down. Switch that guy down because this field, this thing is done for the most. Oops, nope, not yet. I forgot to put form control because that just makes it look nice. Form control. I refresh this. Cool. It's a little squished together, but whatever. It's not the end of the world. All right, so let's go work on our login validations. So our login validations are going to be a little bit different. Log val, self post data. I'm going to say errors equals an empty dictionary. So I want to make sure the email is in the database. then match that user's password to an encrypted version of submitted password. So this is going to start as users equals user.objects.filter. So the same way that we did it for the registration validation, email equals post data email. Except this time we're going to say if the length of users is 0, then there's an error, because if they try and log in with an email address and there's no user in our database that's registered with that email address, then there's nobody for them to log in as. And then I'm going to say log email so that I can specify that this is for the login. In fact, I'm actually just going to have one thing in here, and I'll explain why in a sec. Equals invalid email / password. I guess I'll explain it now because this doesn't make much sense, right? So the reason why I want to do this, or let me open this up to you guys. Can any of you tell me why I might want to have a really ambiguous and vague error message like this?
In case someone's trying to guess a password?
Right. So if I were to say this is an invalid email address, or valid email address but invalid password, if they can figure out that easily which thing is wrong, then they could potentially be halfway towards hacking into your account, right? If they try your email address and then they put in a password and it says invalid password, please try again, they might say, okay, so I know there's somebody registered with that email address. I mean, granted, they can just try and register a new user with that email address and it'll give them that information anyway. But this is just a good, a good little mini measure that I would recommend doing. It also cuts down on the amount of times that you need to put an error message in there, which is nice. So if the length of users is 0, then I want to do that. Otherwise, okay, so let's see. Check PW equals, oh God, what was it? No, this one I always have to look up. This guy right here. Else, so I'm going to say valid user equals users bracket 0, right? Because if the length of users is not 0, then that means whichever user is at the 0 index of that list is the user that's trying to log in. So I want to check that user's password in the database against the submitted thing. And basically the logic for this is all right here for you. You just need to make sure that your stuff is valid. You can just build this into your login method, but I like to build it into the validation here. So I'm going to say
what section is that?
bcrypt.
Oh, okay.
So we can take this and put it. We can.
Yeah. So I could literally just build it all into here and not even need another validator. I can say user equals user.objects.filter, email equals request post email, and then say if user logged user equals user bracket 0, if bcrypt.check pw request.post password dot encode logged user dot password dot encode request dot session user id equals logged user dot id return just redirect to the dashboard. Otherwise, messages.error request, and then invalid password extra tags equals login.
Can you explain the last line, messages.error request?
It's the same thing here, except I'm just saying if there's an error with their login, I just want to say invalid email or password. So this is the value that I was doing up here. Where is it? Right, I'm creating an error in the flash messages.
Can you maximize the screen so we can see all that in line?
Yes.
Cool.
So I'm essentially doing this, but with the knowledge that this is my login, so there's only one actual thing that I care about is that they didn't provide valid login credentials. Invalid email or password. And just make it like that. So I could do that, and I think I will just do that because that's super easy. Does it all in one go. I'm not going to bother with this. All right, so if I get a user back, then I want to say logged user is the first user in that list. If bcrypt.checkpw, so this is checking to see that the password from the form when encoded matches the password from the database. Again, I don't know the specifics of the .encode. It would seem weird that I would have to encode a thing that I'm just pulling out of the database. I don't get it. I don't know how it works, but that's not really a thing that I need to worry about. All I know is it does work, and this is an accepted thing, so I'll take it. And then if the passwords match, then I want to put the user ID in session and redirect them to the dashboard. Otherwise, create an error message. So let's go in here and just get that error message set up. So I'll say if messages or message in messages, if message.extra tags equals login, then I want to say column.
So being logged into something is just basically having your ID in session for that page?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Can you edit session on a page that you're on?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
So essentially, when you put something in session, and I can actually show it because I'm technically logged in session. There's a session key and session data, right? Pay attention to this. RVGSULZO, right? Is how that starts. If I come in here, inspect application, in my localhost 8000 storage, RVGSULZO. So all that's actually being stored is some kind of key. And then when you do some kind of session check, it pulls from the database based on that key, decrypts this, and then checks the data. So you could edit the key, but if you did that, you wouldn't actually be able to access things in session, and then it would boot you out. Or it will when we create the functionality to do that.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you can edit it to an extent, like I can do this. But then I wouldn't be able to actually do anything with that afterwards. And I can actually test that real quick. I am going to go into the other app, Books Authors app, and I'm going to create that dashboard that everything is trying to redirect to. So path from dot import views dot dashboard def dashboard request, and then I'll just say if user ID not in request dot session, return redirect to the home page, otherwise return. I'll just do an HTTP response.